very excited to be here to talk about the next kind of advice that you can look forward to in early, mid, and later stage careers. So how many of you would you consider yourself early stage career? Okay, what about mid? Like 5 to 15, 10? Okay, and later stage? Awesome, cool. So regardless of what stage you're in, if you're in the later stage, I'd be interested to get your feedback on what you thought about our advice for early and mid. But regardless of which stage you're in, I hope you can find some value out of our chat today. So we'll start off with some introductions. I'm Beverly Wright. I'm head of data science solutions for a company called Burtch. We offer analytics, data science, AI solutions, like meaning delivery, projects, initiatives, data science products, as well as talent and training. I'm also the president for the Analytics Society at Informs, the Institute for Operations Research Management Science. And I'm the chair for the Data Science and AI Society at Technology Association of Georgia. And we have a booth on this floor. Please check us out. Lots of great events. And then I also host a podcast called Tag Data Talk. So take a listen. And then Jess, can you introduce yourself, please, ma'am?
I'm Jess Ramos. I'm a senior data analyst at Crunchbase. We are a data company with company data. I'm also a LinkedIn learning instructor, and I teach courses on data analytics and SQL. That's kind of my 9 to 5 life. And then I have a 5 to 9 life on social media. I'm also a content creator. I create content on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok on data, SQL, tech careers, all that fun stuff. And I've spent most of my career in the SaaS technology space, kind of in the fintech finance world. And I'm just really passionate about sharing data with everybody and making it a fun field to be in.
Y'all, she's being like super humble. So please check out her LinkedIn profile. She's got, 5? How many people were watching your SQL video recently? Is it?
So far, over 5,000 in 12 days. I'm really excited.
Wow. I mean, my gosh. And average score was like a 4.9 out of 5 stars. So y'all give her a hand. Like, seriously. This is really, she's something. She's being humble. And we actually met through a mentorship, menteeship that happened organically. It wasn't like a preset date between like an organization like Informs where they have a mentor match or Women in Analytics or anything like that. It was just like I came to Berry College initially, and through Tama Monroe White, Dr. Wright, White asked me to come into her class, and Jess saw me. And then there was a poster competition for data science at University of Georgia. And I was like, hell, I know you'd be good at this. I know you would. And she went and did it and loved it. And then she got involved with Technology Association of Georgia. We did a nonprofit project. We have a For Good initiative in the summers where volunteers work on a data science project. Frank and Perrin, are y'all in the room? Yeah, Perrin's in the way in the back. And then Frank, I saw you somewhere. And they were also involved in this project. And so Jess was instrumental for helping with some K-means segmentation for that project. So that's how we met. And it's just grown from there. And now I consider her more, she's probably my mentor more than I'm her mentor at this point. But that's how we started this collaboration. So the reason we're talking about early, mid, and later stage is we really think there's a difference in the advice. We can't just give you a one-shot kind of advice because early stage, there's going to be different kinds of challenges that you're dealing with compared to middle and later stage. Also, not only does the market and our discipline change, because y'all think about this, we've only been around for a certain amount of time, right? This is not like math or, even psychology. Like this discipline of data science and AI has only been around for decades, not like hundreds and centuries and that sort of thing. So things are going to change with that. And also your own self. You're going to change. So that's why, we've sort of set it out in 3 different parts. Okay, so early career, Jess, I'm going to let you take this part away. You're just getting started. You're trying to find your place in the world and in your career. What's your key advice points that you would give someone for their early career in data science and AI?
Okay, is this working now? No? Okay. So I think something I have really learned over the past couple years is how important it is to have a good manager. And I know that's easier said than done. It's hard sometimes to really find who you're going to connect with and grow well with, but having a good manager can really set up your career and give you the chance to really not only grow your technical skills, but also grow your confidence. In my first data analytics job, I had an amazing manager. He was a mentor to me. He taught me a lot of technical skills. I felt really safe, and I was able to ask a lot of questions. And through that, I grew so much. I started out barely able to select one column in SQL to building entire data models and really driving insights throughout the entire company. And I just saw through that experience how important it is to feel supported by someone and really have someone who's going to be a good mentor for you. I think a lot of earlier career professionals are so caught up with the title. They want the cool data science job title or maybe a six-figure salary for an entry-level role. But I think what's most important is being able to have someone who's going to nurture you and allow you to grow, because those skills are what you're going to be able to take with you to your next job, and they're going to help you out much more later on in your career.
Just to clarify, so you're in an interview, you're chatting it up with this person, you really connect, but the job is You're chatting it up on this other interview, and you're like, thumbs down on the person, but the job sounds amazing. You're saying you'd probably lean more toward the first one?
Personally, I would lean where I think I would grow the most. So maybe kind of balancing like the skills you would learn, but also the manager. So just seeing what situation you think you would thrive in and grow the most in, that's the option that I would personally choose.
Great advice, great advice. And that's probably not something you could bullet, like look for this, this, and this in your manager. It's probably very individualized. But I definitely have some things that I really like about certain managers and some things I don't like about one, some others. But like Sean Williams is SEAN, if you want to look him up. He was my favorite boss of all time, and I still think about some of the advice that he had and some of the ways that he made me feel confident, like you're saying. That's a really good point. Any other early career kind of stuff that people should look for?
Yeah, I would say definitely just work on overcoming your imposter syndrome. I feel imposter syndrome all the time still, and I certainly felt it a lot in my first data analytics job. There's just a lot to learn. There's a lot of coding skills, technical skills, everything's evolving and changing. There's all these new tools popping up. And then sometimes you're like, wow, I'm making these really big business decisions and I have such a big power in the company, but am I deserving of having that? It's natural to have those feelings of imposter syndrome, but I think everyone feels it to some extent. I'm curious if people later on in their careers still feel that, but I think it's just been kind of a battle to overcome those feelings and build up your confidence, because everybody brings something valuable to the table. And everyone is a valuable asset to their company, no matter where you come from or how many years of experience you have.
Yeah, excellent. Good point again. And you must have really overcome this, because you're really brave with the LinkedIn Learning classes. You're in front of a green screen, right? And you're doing all this filming, and it's permanent. So that's a little bit intimidating. But those are fantastic points of advice for early career. And definitely easier said than done. We're not saying any of this stuff is easy, but it's we're just trying to highlight some of the things that are really important. And then mid-career, this is where you sort of start the climb. So I'll give a couple of examples for myself, and then I'll ask you, because you're you're kind of like between the early and the mid, and I'm kind of between the mid and the later. But the climb. So when it comes to the climb, now y'all are going to think this is silly, but I'm telling you, this really seems to work for all the mentees that I've told. Write your mission statement. If you need to pull up a Franklin Covey website to figure out how to write a mission statement, write your mission statement, write what you're all about, and put it in I used to say write it down on a sticky and keep it in your bathroom. But nowadays I say, because I've been giving that advice for so long, nowadays I say put it in your notes of your phone. And so for me, to be completely transparent and to give you mine, I'm all about elevating data science, stimulating innovation, encouraging collaboration while doing as much good as possible. Those are the 4 things, right? And if you can't figure out your 4 and you don't want to go to Franklin Covey, I have a piece of advice, which is think about if you were a fly on the wall and okay, it's kind of morbid, but you passed away or something. And people from work were talking about you. Gosh, I just love the way she really made an impact in this area. Think about what you want them to say. I mean, a less morbid example would be a retirement party, but what fun is that? So think about at the end of your career, you want people to be able to say oh, wow, she was really known for this, and I really admired that she did that thing. Think about what those things are. And that's how you can kind of find your North Star. So that's one example of ways that you can start, thinking about mid-career. What are some other ideas that you might have?
Yeah, so I'm kind of learning this right now. So it's a special time for me figuring out what I really want to do. I think some advice that I would have is don't feel pressured to necessarily go down the manager track unless that's really what you want to do. Yes. I think a lot of people are so caught up with, I want to be a manager. It's the natural next step. It's a great job title. It's an elevated step in the company. But I think it's okay if you don't want to be a manager and you want to stay in an IC role. I was at a startup a few years ago. I was managing a team of 2, and I realized, wow, I'm really early on in my career to be managing people. I don't know if this is the route I want to go down right now. I feel like I need to develop myself more technically and work on myself as an IC. So that's what I did, and I almost felt like I was taking a step back to go back to a senior level, but I don't see it as a step back. I see it as a step in a different direction. So I would encourage people in their middle career era to really think about what they want to do and to not feel pressured into the right track or what people think they should do next.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. I think I told you this when we were prepping for this, that sometimes I wish I were still just a senior data scientist. I mean, I get a little antsy not having hands-on keys more than once a week or something. But I still have my outlets. Like I still have the data science for good stuff that I can do. I can still publish articles. I can, the last model I built was 2022. So I'm not like a dinosaur or anything. And I oversee all that. But sometimes I really just want to do it myself. So that's an excellent point. I try to tell people to sort of see your career as more like a jungle gym than a ladder necessarily. You don't have to go to the next rung. You can kind of go sideways. You can go sort of, move around. Another piece of advice for mid-level is the ethics. And really, this kind of starts in the early stage, of course, and hopefully even sooner. But the mid-level, this is where you can really start to have an impact with the work that you're doing, and you will run into ethical challenges all the time. I had a colleague call me. She was almost in tears, and she was just so upset about one of their internal stakeholder clients, and it's at a major company here in Atlanta. And she said, I can't believe this guy was just like, I need the numbers to look this way, period. And it was her and 2 of her directors and 3 of her team members. And she finally just said no, and they were teams chatting behind the scenes, and her team was like, you get them, So please don't feel obligated, even though you will regret it. Let me just put it that way. You will regret it. I've probably been faced with this type of challenge from the ethical standpoint at least 10 times. I've been asked to make things look a certain way to justify a decision that's already been made instead of relying on the data to help make decisions. So that's my biggest piece of advice for mid-career. Any others that you want to add?
Yeah, I've actually been in that situation too already, which is funny, but not really super funny. But I would say to really work on your soft skills. I think people are so caught up with doing all the cool AI stuff and machine learning and being able to code a lot in Python. Yes, those things are great, but I think what really takes people to the next level are the soft skills. So learning how to manage stakeholders, knowing when to push back, learning how to build relationships with them so they trust you and the metrics that you're developing, and just learning how to scope and manage projects and mentor people below you. I think those skills are often overlooked because they don't sound as fun as machine learning and all the cool stuff. But I think the soft skills are what really develop you into the next level of a data professional.
Yeah, great point. And that's what at Birchworks, that's a lot of times what we hear is I need someone that's autonomous, that's proactive, that can think on their own, that is naturally curious. A lot of it has to do with soft skills. One more thing for mid, and then we'll move to later. For mid, I would say don't be afraid to specialize. A lot of people are afraid to specialize because they feel like they're going to pigeonhole themselves and lower their opportunities. But I would think it increases your opportunities because you're known for something. And there's 3 ways to specialize. You can specialize by business problem. For example, you can say I'm the consumer loyalty queen. I know all about consumer loyalty. I've done research on it. I understand it in and out, and I know how to build models for consumer loyalty. So that's one example, is you can do it by business question. Another example is you can do it by technique, right? I'm really good at NLP, for example. I'm not. I'm just saying that's an option. That's an example. So you could be the NLP expert. I actually love structural equation modeling. Do we have any other SEM, structural equation modeling, fans? Oh, man. Oh, we got one. Yay. Okay. It's so unused. It needs to be used more. It's like an incredible method. Anyway. And then the third option is you can specialize by industry. So we have, I saw Russ's face somewhere. Yeah. So like healthcare, you can just be like, I'm in healthcare. I'm in financial services. Like I'm in technology, right? Like you can just come up with what your specialization is and don't be afraid to do that. Now, don't get so granular that you can't get another job ever, but do try to come up with what really makes you tick. So those are, I think, where we want to, those are some of our top advice for mid-career.
All right, Beverly, now that we've talked about early career and mid-career, can you tell us some advice for later career professionals?
Yeah, so I've been in this for, it's hard to believe, but 32 years, y'all. Like I was a major in decision sciences at Georgia State. Any other Panthers in the room? Woohoo! Georgia State was one of the only schools in the country that had decision scientists. And when I switched from accounting to decision science, I remember my parents making fun of me. Oh, are you going to be a decision scientist? Like, yeah. And now it seems like a normal piece of language, right? But back then, my mom got a real kick out of it. So when I, started on my journey, and now that I'm kind of looking back, one thing I would say for people that are 25, 30, years into this, make sure you're doing what you love. And I know that's probably for early career, that sounds silly, right? Like, of course, by then, of course you got it all figured out. But you change so much, and you go on this, this system and this, it's sort of the machine. And I've talked to so many people. One is a former CAO, 3-time CAO. Another is a CAO twice. I talked to them recently. They consider me their mentor. Hilarious. But I've talked to both of them recently, and they're both like, I was not doing what I love. I don't know. I just felt like I felt like I needed to climb the ladder, and they ended up somewhere that they were not happy. So make sure you're doing what you love. And one thing I know for sure that I love, for those of y'all that know me already know this, my real passion is data science for good. And I work for Burtchworks, and Burtchworks has a Burtchworks Cares, division, and so they let me do that. And by working for Burtchworks, it gives me the ability to do some of that. But if I could do data science for good all day long and help reduce opioid addiction and human trafficking and all that kind of stuff, that's what I would do. So one thing is, it might seem silly, but make sure you're doing what you really love. Another thing is reflect on your career. And again, if you need to write this in your notes, by all means, but reflect on your career and spot clean, okay? So what I mean is look at everything you've done and then think about, is this the palette that I want? Is this the tapestry and the way it's painted? Is this the way I want it, or do I need to add some things? Make sure you do this before you retire. Are there certain things that I missed along the way? So do kind of like a status check on that. And then lastly, and you'll love this one, Jess, don't be afraid to take on mentors. Don't be afraid to give back to the next. And that can mean talking at schools. We have Emory, we have Georgia Tech, we have Georgia State, we have Kennesaw down the road. Gosh, guys, there's so many opportunities for you to give back to the next, and they want to hear from you, right? So there are ways you can give back and contribute to the upcoming generation to make sure that your legacy kind of carries on and your passion is disseminated. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I think that last part is great, and I think you've helped so many people. I think most people in this room probably see you as a mentor because you're a mentor to so many people, and I think that advice is relevant no matter what stage you're in as well. I think no matter where you're at in your career journey, there's always people behind you who can learn from you. Agreed.
What final piece of advice would you give to everybody here about their career?
I would say go for whatever you're passionate about, as cheesy as that sounds. Just be along for the ride, be adaptable, chase things that you're excited about. If I saw myself today 5 years ago, I would be like, no way, that is not me. You just never know where you're gonna grow, in what direction you're gonna grow. But as long as you're doing things that you're like really excited about and passionate, you're gonna meet the right people, you're gonna find the right community, and you're gonna just be so successful. So just chase what you're passionate about, and you're gonna surprise yourself with how much you grow and learn.
Excellent. I love it. And I say stay curious. Be curious. It was discoveries and being able to make those discoveries that got me into this field and that sort of intrigued me. And it's always going to be about that. It's always going to be about making those discoveries and being a data sleuth. So stay curious throughout your career. Thank you, Jess, Ramos, and thank you guys.